Okay, we see it's being live streamed. All right, good morning. I would like to welcome everyone to the thesis defense of Timothy Flavin, who has worked on an annotated translation of excerpts from Francisco Arriví's timely play, Vejigantes. I would also like to extend my gratitude to the readers on the thesis committee for their participation in this defense. Thank you, Professors Jane Ramirez and Alejandro Álvarez-Nieves. Timothy will begin with a presentation on this project. We will then proceed to a discussion headed by the committee members. So, Timothy, whenever you're ready,
Okay,
I'll
I'm
mute
ready.
myself.
So I'm going to go in and just share my screen real quick. And if you guys just want to let me know that the presentation, you can see the presentation all right. Okay, so with that, I'll go ahead and I'll jump right into it. So first and foremost, just wanted to thank everybody for being here. My thesis advisor, David Auerbach, as well as the readers, Jane Ramirez and Alejandro Álvarez-Nieves, and also anybody else listening in on the live stream who took time to come to the presentation. So as David said, I'm doing excerpts from the play Vejigantes. For my translation, I chose to leave the title in the original Spanish. This is a play by Francisco Arriví, and I was translating two acts of the play. I didn't touch the first act. I translated all of the second act and parts of the third act. And so without further ado, I want to just jump into talking about what some of the goals of this project were and my goals of this presentation. I was really looking to introduce readers to the author of Vejigantes, introduce them to Francisco Arriví, an author who may not be as familiar to a non-Spanish speaking or non-Puerto Rican audience. I want to talk about the play of Vejigantes and some of the context surrounding it, and then get into the translation itself, as well as what some of the challenges were that I faced while carrying out this translation. And then finally, at the end of this presentation, I want to just talk about some conclusions. So why this project was important, what the space for this project looks like in 2025, and then I can open it back up to the committee and receive your feedback and get your thoughts about the translation. So first, just want to start off by introducing who Francisco Arriví is. So Francisco Arriví Alegría was born in San Juan, Puerto Rico, in Santurce, and by all means is a lifelong student of theater. Most of the biographical information that I read on him mentioned things about going to the theater with his mother when he was younger, about putting on unofficial plays in the neighborhood when he was younger as well. And he definitely seems like the figurehead of theater in Puerto Rico. Definitely one of the premier playwrights in the history of Puerto Rico. He attended the University of Puerto Rico, the Rio Piedras campus specifically. And it's interesting that I couldn't find any document with his name on it, but almost everybody attributed the anthem of the university to his time in the choir at the University of Puerto Rico. So I guess it's called Cantemos Unidos. I haven't officially heard it, or I haven't heard it sung in person, but I was able to find videos of it online and things like that. And it was an interesting connection that he had with the university, and a connection that he continued to have throughout his life. He was constantly contributing to drama in the university as well as in Puerto Rico in general. And he also did graduate studies at Columbia University. So he studied theater and communications in New York City and Columbia on a grant. And it was interesting that I found an interview that he did with Kentucky University in 1995 with Jorge Medina, and he talks about really the most important experience that he had, that he didn't learn anything that he didn't know about theater, being a part of that program. But what he did learn, he learned going to plays on Broadway and actually being in that spot where there's a lot of theater being developed and a lot of actors and a lot of playwrights in one place. He talked about that being a very formative part of his career as a playwright. And ultimately, he goes down in history as one of the most prolific and renowned playwriters in Puerto Rico's history. So I want to talk a little bit about the text itself now. So a bit of background about Vejigantes. So the play was first performed May 29th, 1958 in the Teatro Municipal Tapia y Rivera in San Juan, which is the theater in Viejo San Juan, in Old San Juan. If you guys are familiar with where that theater is, it's still in use today and still being used for acts of theater. The edition that I was translating, which was pulled off of Internet Archive originally, was published in 1974 by Editorial Paraninfo in Madrid, Spain. But it was actually Editorial Cultural in Rio Piedras who originally published the play in 1970, which I was able to get a physical copy. I ordered a physical copy so that I could just have that on hand while I was doing the translation. And this all forms part of a trio of plays that Arriví wrote around the same time that were dealing with the subject of race in Puerto Rico. These are all published under the umbrella name of Máscara Puertorriqueña, Puerto Rican Mask, and it includes two other plays, which are Bolero y Plena and Sirena, which all connect to, as this one theme of race in Puerto Rico. And this play in general also deals with a larger theme of a changing Puerto Rican identity in the 1950s. There were a lot of cultural, economic, and societal changes that were taking part in this, and he forms part of this movement that was more known for plastic arts called La Generación de los 50, that he formed with other Puerto Rican writers like Francisco Matos Pauli and René Marquez, who are also authors that I looked at for this. So I want to talk a little bit more about the history of what was going on at the time that the play was published, so that we can see some of the societal influences on Arriví's work. So there was a large economic transformation, especially that Puerto Rico was undergoing. So in the late 1940s and going into the 1950s, Puerto Rico is changing from being an official colony of the United States to being an unofficial colony, I guess, not being officially called a colony, but still being a colony. And with that came kind of a change in the mindset of how the economy was going to be designed in Puerto Rico. So they're moving from an agrarian economy that was established by the Spanish, mostly focused on the harvesting of like coffee and sugarcane and things like that, to an industrial economy. With a higher standing of living, it did have its drawbacks, but it did bring with it more connection to Puerto Rico, the establishment of highways all around the island, and much more of a centralized economy as the economy started to move towards the San Juan metro area or the other cities on the island. There's also in the 1950s a large resistance to this assimilation, as and particularly independence leaders see the political movements getting closer to the United States and starting to seem like they're getting closer to that, to the United States ideologically. There starts to be resistance, and there's a number of important acts of resistance in the 1950s in Puerto Rico, such as the Grito de Jayuya, where independence fighters just kind of tried to overthrow the current government in Puerto Rico. So there's also a cultural transformation that comes with this. So I have a picture of the Popular Democratic Party's logo on the side here, which was the Jíbaro, and there's kind of this transformation of this Jíbaro, who was typically seen as a white person, and they were kind of established as this national symbol that helped Luis Muñoz Marin, who's the originally the leader of the Senate in the late 1940s and then becomes the governor of Puerto Rico, kind of cultivate a workforce for this new industrial economy that he's looking to establish in Puerto Rico. And this time is also marked by mass migration, so specifically to the San Juan metro area, but also to East Coast US cities outside of Puerto Rico. There's a spread to Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, where big Puerto Rican communities are established as they search for a place in this more industrialized economy. And just as a note, one of the other pieces that I read to kind of get more context on this situation is another play by René Marquez, La Carreta, or The Ox Cart, which was written right around the same time as Vejigantes and also deals with similar issues of what was going on in Puerto Rico. So I want to get into now the text itself. I wanted to kind of do a close reading of the text so that I could understand it a bit better. And I established these two specific themes as far as what I wanted to keep in mind as I was carrying out my translation. So I wanted to identify discrimination and racism as it has existed and continues to exist in Puerto Rico. And then also tackle Arriví's critical stance towards the subordination of Puerto Rico in relation to the United States, or otherwise known as the colonial relationship that Puerto Rico has to the United States. And so I wanted to talk a bit about how he uses the mask of Puerto Rican identity to tackle that idea of racial discrimination and a different racial identity in Puerto Rico. So he compares this, that's the reason why this play is called Vejigantes. Is a Vejigante mask is a mask that is traditionally worn in usually festivals in Puerto Rico. You can see them a lot in las fiestas de la calle San Sebastián or la fiesta de Santiago Apóstol in like St. James Festival in Loíza. And this mask is almost the way that Arriví says that Puerto Ricans hide a multiracial identity in an attempt to move closer to a Eurocentric identity. So there's an attempt to kind of marginalize those sides and move close and distance themselves from Afro-descendant and indigenous identities in an attempt to make themselves appear more appealable to, in this case, the United States and other European societies. This manifests itself especially in the character of Marta, who, if you've read the play, you'll know that she hides her Afro-descendant features underneath a turban, right? So she wears the turban and tells people that she's 100% Spanish, that there's no African heritage. She attempts to limit that by using the turban as a mask, essentially, is what Arriví is saying. So ultimately, Clarita, who's another one of the protagonists in this play, comes to the conclusion that life beneath all these masks allows only a reprieve and not true relief from the problems facing Puerto Rico. So in the play, there are the characters of Marta, who is the mother of Clarita, and then the mother of Marta is Mama Toña, who all have differing views on Puerto Rico and kind of what the identity means to them. So I also wanted to look at Vejigantes as an anti-colonial text criticizing the relationship that Puerto Rico has with the United States. And the character of Bill, who's the suitor of Clarita in this play, is really a representation of the social and political ideas that the United States of the 1950s had about Puerto Ricans and Puerto Rican identity. Bill makes a lot of comments in the play about fundamentally changing Puerto Rico to make it a place not more pleasing for Puerto Ricans, but a place that would be more pleasing for people from the United States. And through these three characters of Mamá Toña, Marta, and Clarita, we see different attitudes towards the colonial rule in Puerto Rico. So Mamá Toña offers us more of a skeptical view that something like this can work. She's very skeptical when Marta comes to her with the idea of marrying Clarita off. Marta is kind of all for it. She's, wants to kind of give her daughter up to this more Eurocentric world because she thinks that it would mean a better future for her. And then Clarita feels almost stuck in the middle, not wanting to go too far, but also recognizing what her mother wants for her. And considering the politics of the time, it kind of makes sense, right? I talked a bit before about Muñoz Marín Rivera, or Luis Muñoz Marín, not Marín Rivera, because it's a different person. But Luis Muñoz Marín also, instilled like the gag law and was not allowing people to advocate for Puerto Rican independence. And Marta kind of represents this character that wants to, get further away from the Puerto Rican identity or censor it in a way in an attempt to get closer to a more European identity. So now that we kind of have some background on the text as a whole, I want to go into what were some of the translation challenges that I had with the text while I was working on it. And I established about a few different challenges that I had here. So one was just translating unfamiliar words or words that have fallen into disuse. So just general, I would say, translation issues where I had to, stop and look up this word or maybe go deeper into the dictionary to find what the word would have meant at the time that it was used, because it's not necessarily it's not used in the same way anymore. Another issue that I had was leaving certain words in the source language. So it was a decision that I made that was a large part of my philosophy during this translation. The decision not to translate certain words because ultimately this is a text about Puerto Rico and about Puerto Rican Spanish. So there was certain decisions that I had to make to not neutralize that. Translating sayings to capture an approximate meaning. So because this is a play that's going to be performed, I need to make a script that's going to be read by actors, a script that's going to flow in a spoken way and not necessarily just reading, because the idea is that this is a play that's going to be performed. It has to have some sort of rhythm to the text as well. Translating positional language for theater as well as the structure of the text was another challenge that I faced. And then ultimately talking about race in a sensitive and responsible way is a very big challenge that I think I'm still dealing with this text, but I definitely wanted to achieve a text that didn't marginalize or ignore any of the voices that were in the text itself. So as far as translating the unfamiliar words or the words in disuse, I used the Real Academia Española for a lot of the general queries that I had about words that I found in the text. For the words that were in Spanish, while I was carrying out my translation into English, I used Merriam-Webster's online dictionary just so that I could maybe investigate alternatives for the words. Like I said, since I'm writing this text from the 1950s, and that's the setting of the text, I need to also reflect that in what I write in my translation in English. So I need to make responsible decisions about the vocabulary that I use in regards to trying to create a text that works in 1950s English. For Puerto Rican Spanish specific issues, I had to consult el Tesoro Lexicográfico del Español Puertorriqueño, which is an amazing tool for me. I really find it to be very extensive as far as the words that are contained in there. And honestly, it's something that has been mentioned throughout my time at the program. And I just absolutely love how I think the website works great. And I certainly used it to my advantage during this project. And then also just having conversations with native speakers really helped me understand the whole sayings of, and I will say this, Mamá Toña was the specific roadblock to a lot of my understanding. I think that the other people in the play use mostly straightforward vocabulary, but Mamá Toña, and for very specific reasons on the part of Arriví, was more the sayer, the more of the character that used these colloquial sayings or used these idiosyncrasies or used more confusing vocabulary just because of what Arriví was trying to do with her as a character. So I wanted to talk about some just examples really quickly about, and these are just translations that I did, right? These weren't, these are mostly sayings that I encountered that I had to kind of approximate into English. So as you can see on the left, the original from Vejigantes, and then on the right, my translation. So on the left, you can see, La gente me formaba rueda, yo hacía primores con este cuerpo. Everyone followed my lead and I made magic with this body. Que te salcoches en tu propia pailas, go stew in your own soup. No te dejes engatusar por cualquier tuntuneco con campanillas en los cuernos y el demonio en las intenciones. Don't fall for the musings of just any moron with bells on his toes and evil in his heart. So these maybe don't capture exactly what the original text is saying to down to the fine points. But what they do create is a certain sense of flow in the dialogue and a certain sense of translating the character of Mamá Toña as a whole, right? This older character who uses these like wise sayings and things like that. I think that the translations that I was able to come up with help understand her character as a whole for the audience, rather than just nitpicking the fine details of what she's trying to say in the original text. So another translation issue that I specifically want to talk about is deciding not to translate Spanish to English. So there were strategic times during the translation that I decided not to translate words or to leave things in the original Spanish, just as a way to best communicate the meaning of the text to the audience who's viewing Vejigantes. So I believe that the fact that the protagonists speak Puerto Rican Spanish and that they are Puerto Rican is an important part of the meaning and message of this play. So I think that it would be irresponsible to neutralize that. So my attempt to not do that is by allowing these characters to use words that are unique to them and their position in Puerto Rico. So I also want to just talk about a few examples where I did just that. So again, the original on the left and then the translation on the right. So al descorrerse el telón se desvanece el desgolpear sobre las timbas. So as the curtain rolls back, the sound of the barriles fades. So in this one, actually, I decided to make a change to what was in Spanish only because las timbas was something that I found on the Tesoro Lexicográfico that said was actually like the definition of barriles in the northeast of Puerto Rico. So very specific to the region of Loíza, which makes sense because that's where one of our protagonists, Mamá Toña, is from. So using more specific language, I did make the decision to keep it in Spanish, but move it to a term that may be easier for a curious audience member to actually encounter Whereas if keeping it as timbas may not facilitate their ability to find more out about the term if they were to just stumble upon it, if they were reading the script or if they were to hear it. Another one, pues yo no razono la tuya de vivir como los múcaros. Well, I don't understand why you need to live like the múcaro. So múcaro is Puerto Rican owl in English. It does have a translation. I do feel as though it's kind of a neutralizing translation. It doesn't really give a name that's specific, or it just sounds like it could be any old owl. It doesn't sound like it's something that's endemic to Puerto Rico, that's a specific species from Puerto Rico. So it was something that I decided to leave in that I think works for the audience and gives them the curiosity to find out a bit more about the term itself and about what the species is. Clarita defiende esa idea, como decimos aquí, de los dientes para afuera. Clarita defends those ideas de los dientes para afuera, as we say here. In this instance, it's Marta having a conversation with Bill about the Clarita, and I think that leaving something in Spanish there, because they're specifically talking in Spanish and she's kind of explaining this saying to her, I think it works as something that grounds the audience and reminds them that this play, although what they're hearing is in English, it is originally performed in Spanish, and the idea is that they are speaking in Spanish, right? They're in Puerto Rico, and there's a number of references to the fact that Bill speaks Spanish, that they're all speaking Spanish throughout this play. So I left it in there specifically to kind of ground the audience and serve as a reminder to them. So I also want to talk about writing for theater and some of the, some of the specific stage terminology that I had to translate. I wasn't particularly familiar with plays. I haven't done any translations of plays in the past. So there is certain vocabulary that when I looked at it, I wasn't familiar with, or in my original translation before getting corrections, I said maybe general terms about left and right rather than, specific terms that need to be written in order for an actor to read them, like stage left, stage right. And also just the general format was a large challenge for me. I originally tried to maintain the format that was in the original text, but when I was carrying out the translation, I was realizing, as well as from feedback from my advisor, that this isn't really how plays looked at now, nor at the time that Vejigantes was published. So I had to go look for a lot of parallel texts just to kind of get the idea of what this, what the general idea or the format was for these plays. So the Gutenberg project was a huge help for me, as well as other plays that I have on hand, and I could kind of get a bit closer to a format that looks like a play would have looked at the time, which I think in the end I was able to kind of match that format better. And finally, I just want to talk really quick about writing about race and being respectful of race in this play. So, I mean, I have to be responsible to and respectful of race in both cultures in the US and Puerto Rico. Ultimately, I had to make responsible decisions about the type of language that I chose to use. Arriví challenges a lot of racial attitudes in Puerto Rico at the time, and especially kind of this attitude that I was getting. Some of the articles that I read mentioned that reviews at the time that the play was originally published in '58, and while it was being performed, were saying that this isn't an issue anymore. Arriví is, or they called him Don Paco. They were saying that this isn't, that he's living in the past. Was one of the was what one of the articles that I found was accusing reviewers of the time of saying. So it was kind of I know that he was challenging racial attitudes in Puerto Rico, so my translation needs to do the same. I have to attempt to still keep that important fact in my translation, and not take out or leave out key details that would go towards his attempt to challenge those racial attitudes. As far as my English translation as well, there's a very, I didn't use too much inflammatory language, I'll say, in my translation. And I don't know that the original does either. It is, however, the character of Bill specifically. I mean, he is a racist. He talks very openly about racist ideas and about being racist and what he thinks is right. Um, I decided, I mean, really, as far as I went, was not capitalizing the B in black, which wouldn't have been done at the time, but would be done in something that was being written for a more modern audience. But it's also a question of would a person from 1950s Alabama really be talking like this? And I'm still not sure that in my final translation, that's necessarily matches the type of language that a person from the Jim Crow South would have been using. I think that they may have been using stronger language, but I also don't know that it's my place to increase the intensity of that language. So that was a problem that I was having in the text, and certainly a conflict that's still going on that I'm still debating about in my own head, and something that I would like to hear from the readers about. So just want to now talk about some of the conclusions or why this translation is important and what its place is in 2025. So it really gives us insight into the evolution of Puerto Rican society and culture, as well as what's remained the same, right? So even though it's, maybe somebody's not being hidden in the back room anymore, it's still there's still certain racial attitudes that remain to this day in Puerto Rico, and certain ways, certainly with language, how people talk about darker skinned people in Puerto Rico. Um, and also it also talks about the current colonial and colony relationship that the United States has with Puerto Rico. So while things have changed, that has stayed the same. And the political structure that was established at the time has mostly remained the same. The political structure that was kind of championed by the Popular Democratic Party at the time uh, has mostly stayed the same. So it's interesting to see those same issues that Arriví was talking about in the 1950s still talked about by authors in Puerto Rico today, and still talked about in academic discourse to this day. So I think that's a very important fact as far as why a translation of this text from 1958 when it was performed, 1970 when it was published, is still relevant in today's discourse. And it also adds to this growing repository of English and Spanish blended literature. I think certainly since the 90s, there has been more of an embracing of texts that have both English and Spanish in them. This isn't an original text, this is a translation, but a book that was released, The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde, for example, is a text that has a number of, Spanish sayings in it. And um, it's just something that's become more popular lately uh, with the literature community, and kind of keeping that cultural those cultural roots in the text itself. Um, And so now I just want to thank you guys for your attention and turn it back over to the committee so that they can give me some feedback on what they just heard and some feedback on my project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Timothy. That was a very interesting presentation, and you touched on some points I think that will be discussed in the following discussion. So I'm going to hand over the floor to our readers. First, does anyone want to go first? I know that you both.
I want the Puerto Rican privilege on this one.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, if you don't mind. Hi, Tim. It's good to finally put a face to the name after 2 years teaching you. Mr. Flavin, you're a bold sir, and I would like to say that as a compliment. Okay, it really is. It's a big enterprise translating Vejigantes. It is a staple text. I mean, any Puerto Rican who has gone to college has a copy of Vejigantes at their home. I mean, it's there. So it's one of those classics everybody knows in Puerto Rico, you know. So being translated by you, it's really interesting. But we need that. You know, I'm pro. This type of text need a native English speaker to handle them because they are very complex and the linguistic elements of it really require somebody who has English as the first thing that comes to their mind. It really does. So in regard to that, you did a very good job. I really liked your translation. First, I want to reflect generally on many things that you said. This text is crucial because of the time it was written. Not only all the things you said were true, but the Muñozismo was really problematic. Muñozismo, what it did, it tried to industrialize Puerto Rico, but the thing is, it industrialized Puerto Rico without solving the most basic problems Puerto Ricans had. So it became a mess, you know. For example, Bill very well depicts the typical American entrepreneur that came in the 50s because Muñoz opened the door to any big American company to come over and establish itself in Puerto Rico tax-free. You know, this is a grandfather of Act 60. You know, what Muñoz did. But the thing is, people expected that opening of big companies coming over and pushing our economy, the effect would be that Puerto Ricans ourselves would establish our own big companies. You know, they will teach us how to big business works so that Puerto Ricans with money could establish parallel businesses. But that didn't happen. Very few Puerto Ricans were able to do it. And most American companies stayed. So it really became a hassle to Puerto Ricans to develop big business, you know. So that's what actually happened, you know. So people now, of course, we see it in hindsight, of course. At the moment, people saw us on a kind of boom, you know, at the moment. But there is a problem there, and what Arriví does, and actually live 2 blocks from the theater, right, it's right over there. The thing Arriví does is crucial because first of all, he's reacting to some text from the 30s. There was a racial text published like by Tomás Blanco, for example, like Elogio de la Plena. And the plena, you can see, is the big absent in this. Is the big absence of plena in this play. It's because most what we consider white Puerto Ricans, if that actually exists, authors like Tomás Blanco from the Puerto Rican elite, I would say it's a better, more accurate term, would identify plena as a blend of the European with the colored element in Puerto Rico, and plena is like our jazz, so it's better. And you know, and the bomba is the bad thing, you know, like the thing those Africans play, and you know, it shouldn't be. It's worse, you know. It's infantilized, it's criticized in contrast to plena. So actually, without saying so, focusing the text on the bomba
Mhm.
It is actually a response to Tomás Blanco and his essays in the 30s. So it's a big debate there, and it's also picks up on what Pales Matos, which you mentioned, Pales Matos and Fortunato Vizcarrondo, which actually has the main trope in the play, which is hiding the black grandma in the back room. It's a poem by Fortunato Vizcarrondo called Ito Donde Está, where the poetry voice is saying, "Where's your grandma? I'm here. I don't fear my skin color. Where's your grandma? I know I know you have her back in the back room." So he picks up on that. So it's a very common trope when people read the play about the grandma being hidden. It's already there. So people would easily identify with Mama Matoña when you see her. A thing that, well, you don't need to mention, but because I wouldn't translate the characters' names, and it's no way I would. But they're very symbolic. I mean, for example, Marta. Maybe Jane later could maybe extend upon this. Marta is a biblical reference, and Marta it's in contrast to Mary, which Marta, I believe, was her sister. The Virgin Mary is the symbol of all the more high moral, purity. And then Marta is the material one, the one who cares about the material things, the lower things in life. And this Marta here. If you see, this Marta wants the economical well-being for her daughter, but in spite of her moral, embracing her culture. So this Marta here, I think it's a biblical Marta here in a way, I mean, maybe slightly, but I wouldn't translate it. I mean, you did the right decision, and of course, Clarita, of course, is clear skinned. It's the clear skin Clarita, But how do you translate that? I don't think it would be fair to translate it either. I wouldn't use like Claire or something like that. I mean, it just wouldn't. I just wouldn't see it. So it loses a little bit, but then the text itself is self-explanatory in a way. So in a way, it's not such a big loss as translation-wise, And what else can I see? Yeah, and another thing that I see, and I realize that you noticed in your presentation, there are things that I see in your presentation that I would like to see in your preface.
Yeah.
For example, the correct decision of changing timba, I believe it was a right decision, but you don't mention it in your preface.
Yeah.
And it is the right decision because you're actualizing the term that is using today. Today we use more barril than timba, which is what it was mostly used in the 50s. So even though it goes against what you explain of retaining the 50s vibe on the play, I believe you have to use barriles today because readers today will actually have to look timba in the dictionary. Actually, most young readers my age will have to do so. So it's the right decision to change it to barriles because that's what it is. And a barril is bigger. It's not a conga. Actually, conga is also a Puerto Rican name for the drum. The drum is not called. I grew up believing that the timba is the conga for salsa, not the barril, which is wider and bigger. It looks like a barrel. It looks like a big barrel. It's round more than like cylindrical. Like the conga is more cylindrical than the barril. So barril is the right term. So yeah, and I saw I don't know. Maybe the rule changed, but dance styles are not uppercase in English. The last time I checked, if you don't uppercase waltz, if you don't uppercase foxtrot, why uppercase bomba? So I will use in the lowercase, like as all the dance styles are in English are used. Yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna leave it there for a while. Okay. The next things I'll go over later, but reflecting upon your translation, I believe this is a very delicate text, especially today. This is a translation that must be done. It really is. It's a text that really needs to be translated into several languages, actually, not only English, because this is a big debate today. We're reliving all of these tropes today. Okay. Afro-descendant women are starting to use the turban again, for example, today. I mean, this has been going, this is still ongoing, is what I mean. You know, this is why this is such a seminal text. And see it in English today, and you did a very good job in avoiding. It's not the text itself. If you see, it's really soft on racial terms. You know, Arriví is really careful, and I appreciate that we're also careful in reproducing. You know, because the issue here is a deeper issue than just specific racial terms, and that's what you did, and that's what Arriví did. So in that sense, I really liked what you did. I like that you kept some things in Spanish, which gives sort of a flavor for maybe diasporic Puerto Ricans would appreciate that, because you see yourself there when you see these little Spanish snippets that remain. You know, you feel at home when you read them. So I like that. There's also an indigenous, this is also a general commentary. There's also an indigenous element in the play that is also not mentioned directly. When they talk about the bats, when the character says, you know, I went out in the night before the bats came out. That's an indigenous reference, because the sacred animal for our indigenous peoples were the bat. Actually, that's why the Bacardi brand has a bat on it. Actually, no, I'm not joking. I'm not joking. And the mucaro, which and the owl. Those were the two, you know, animal deities, zoomorphic deities that the indigenous people have. I won't call them taina, because now there's a controversy of whether that's the proper name or not. I don't want to get into that other discussion. But yeah, I like that you kept mucaro. Which is easily, I know, and you know, is easily translatable as owl. You know, and there's the trope of the night owl, the person who doesn't sleep or stay awake at night a lot. But the fact that I liked it, I like the taste of seeing mucaro in an English language play. So one thing I saw about in your preface, you have a mistake. I know you know it's Francisco because of your presentation, but it's Francisco Matos Paoli. In your preface, you have Fernando. That slipped by your eye, but it's okay. It happens. So you have to correct that in your preface. And so there are a few mistakes in the translations. I'm gonna go about later. I'm gonna give the floor to Jane. So if she wants to reflect a little bit, and then we'll pick it up later.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Alejo. Jane?
I don't understand. You mean you're going to speak again later about errors?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
some mistakes like maceta doesn't mean what he said.
Okay.
You know, but they're minor things. That's why I don't really want to go into them now.
Okay. Well, before I start with the presentation, I want to answer a couple of things that Alejo said. But first of all, Timothy, it is a good job. It's a good translation, and I enjoyed it very, very much. Now, I'm going to point out some errors, which I think are very important. But the fact that there are errors there does not mean it's not a good translation. So I commend you for.
I agree.
I commend you for having chosen this text and having the courage to continue once you saw what you were up against.
Yeah. If I
Sure.
could just say something, and Alejo mentioned it before as well. Like, I was very surprised to see that there wasn't an English translation. Like, when I was looking, I was like, I kept expecting to find it. And I was like, okay, this project is scrapped because there's already a translation. I looked and I'm like, no translation.
About that, I'm sorry to interrupt. There are many issues. I don't know when he died, but there's a very, it's a big block regarding copyrights. Most of the how we say herederos of this author, heirs. Thank you. There's been really a problems with, you know, releasing
Or his estate.
giving permission to translate. It's been really a big issue in Puerto Rican literature. So it's 80% of the question is that. You know.
Okay, but then there's the 20%. I mean, why wasn't it translated when, somewhere close to the time that it was published?
Oh, dude, because it's because of the Puerto Ricanismo of the time, dude. It's, you know how we are. Come on. It's a little bit of gatekeeping, I would say. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
also in the 50s, you wouldn't think of Puerto Ricanness as including a diasporic English speaking factor. That today is not the case, So.
Yeah, but not forget about the diaspora, for a moment. I mean, international. This is a great play. This is a fantastic play.
Well,
Yeah, it's interesting. It's fun to read. It's interesting on its own merits without all of this
I would say
other
that
stuff.
Puerto Rico also incurs in what Benuti criticizes about not being prone to translation. And we have to admit that as Puerto Ricans, we don't tend to promote translating our own literary works.
Okay,
And it's a criticism, and it's true, and it should change. So that's why I love Tim choosing texts like these to bring forth this literature that nobody knows because nobody has taken the interest in translating them. So it is a Puerto Rican thing that we must change. That's all I have. That's all I would say.
Okay, thank you,
Okay.
Jane. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I enjoy this. As I've said before in other defenses, we don't get together anymore. So it's fun to have a chance to talk again. And I appreciate all of the comments that Alejo made, which have already helped my understandings of things. He claimed Puerto Rican privilege to go first, but I've got a privilege to claim too. I'm the only one here who was speaking English in the 1950s.
That's not true.
Okay,
that is
I'm
certainly
sorry.
not true.
Well, I
That
beg your
is
pardon.
certainly not true.
Well, I know it wasn't Alejo, and I know it's not Tim.
I
It's not
wasn't
Barbara, so it must
even
be
in the
David.
band.
Okay, sorry.
I know.
I was born in 1949, and I don't care who knows it. So,
Yeah.
anyhow,
Well, you got a few years on me, but not that many.
okay. Well, anyway, so
And I have a clear memory of the latter part of the 1950s, and also something that I'll talk about a little bit later, racial identity during that period, and the changes, that have occurred. So, and I've talked to Tim about this already. It's something that was kind of left open. So I would like to try to find some closure somehow. But go ahead, Jane.
okay. I'm still on a couple of comments about what Alejo said. One thing about the barriles, I will mention that if my memory serves me, usually in the translation when barriles comes up, it's in a stage direction, right? Not in the actual dialogue.
Yeah. I think, well, the
that may
example
not be every time, and maybe it comes up once, but I'm remembering it as being in stage directions.
Yeah, the example I used was definitely stage directions, and I think it may come up once in dialogue, maybe.
We can check.
Maybe when
I don't remember being used as a word. He used a steamboat all the time.
Okay, but no, but I'm all right. I mean, okay, the barriles was in the translation.
It does come up in the text once. It comes up in the actual dialogue.
Conversation in dialogue.
Once,
okay.
Yes.
Okay. Martha and Mary. Just to correct what I think might be a misconception there.
Yeah, thank you.
The Mary of Martha and Mary is not the Virgin Mary, the mother of Jesus.
Okay.
And they're another. There's Lazarus, whom Jesus raised from the dead, was their brother, and Mary and Martha, and they all lived in Bethany, which is close to Jerusalem. So, but the where it really applies here, the name Martha, is that Martha and Mary are famous for when Jesus came and visited Martha was the one, the self-sacrificing one. She was the one who was in the kitchen preparing food, serving the people and so forth. Mary was sitting at Jesus' feet, listening to every word that he said. And Martha was annoyed. Tell my sister to help me. And Jesus told her, well, she's chosen the better part because she's seeking spiritual wisdom. But the point is, Martha is famous for being the housekeeper, the self-sacrificing one, the one who does everything for everybody else. So I think that's a very appropriate. I'm very glad you brought up that Mary and Martha thing, because I think it's very accurate.
I think it's there, and Arriví was a Catholic, so I think it's there. Yeah.
Okay, so anyhow, that's Martha and Mary. Tim, I
And
enjoyed.
thank you for correcting me.
I just don't want anybody to someone out there in live stream land is going nuts saying, no, I want to tell them the truth. So I told it. But anyway, the positional language for theater. Boy, I understand how difficult that was, because I had trouble understanding. I've got a lot of things to say about the stage directions. I'll try to keep it brief, but yes, I think there's a misunderstanding somewhere, and I don't know, because I'm definitely not an expert in this, but there's an expression that comes up rather often. It comes in the very first page of Act 2, that whole page of stage directions. Right at the end, we have Mamá Toña se enmarca en el claro del fondo. And you've often talked about background, and all I can get from context in this, it sounds like claro is a doorway. And it sounds like the picture I'm getting, and I'm hoping that my colleagues can help me out here. The picture that I'm getting, because several times we have somebody being enmarcado, and that's framed by the doorway. You can see them at the doorway. That's when you translated it as outlined, and you often just said that in the background, and often didn't have this idea of door or doorway in there. So I'm not sure of myself whether this claro really does refer to a doorway, but very often we have people walking through it. So, and we get the same idea of the se enmarca. So I'm wondering if there's a better way of saying it. There's a phrase that popped into my head with this background thing of stage rear. Is that a thing?
Stage rear, yes. Yeah.
So instead of background,
but I think actually background could be used to, but stage rear as a direction, but as a description, because some of these are directions and some of them are just descriptions.
Right.
So I think you'd have to, play by context. But yes, stage rear is what it should be for background, if it's a direction and not just merely a description.
A couple of times we have someone heading toward el claro del fondo, and to me that's the door at stage rear. I don't mind saying in background, but I think that door and doorway thing has to be in there some way. But is it backlit? Is it called a claro because it's backlit, so you see a silhouette rather than seeing the person? Because he keeps saying well, Tim wrote outlines. He keeps saying se enmarca, like we can't really see the person, but sometimes by the shape,
silhouette,
we recognize them. So all I can figure is it's a doorway and it's backlit, but
yeah,
I think you'd have to see a performance of it.
Yeah.
Are there performances available on YouTube?
That's what I was wondering. Because there are photos.
So I was watching parts of one there. There is snippets on YouTube. I don't know if I was able to find a full performance. I mean, I can honestly check right now. I don't know that I found a full performance though.
Well, I think that's the only thing, as far as I'm concerned, that would clarify that.
Yeah. I mean, my vision definitely was that, because I believe in this scene, the light is in the living room, right? Because and that's kind of what she's talking about when she goes in there and talks about how she wants to turn off the light, and like Mama Tonya says, like, I don't understand why you have to live like the mucaro. Like, so I thought that maybe like her dark silhouette is outlined against the door and then she steps into the light. That was kind of what I was getting from the stage direction, but I could be mistaken.
When I send you my full comments, and I can't go, there's a lot of issues that I would like to go. I would love to talk about that light in the living room also, but we can't go into everything in this defense. So I have some comments for you, and I'll be sending those to you sometime this afternoon. My full comments, so like you don't have to take notes on any corrections I say. I have a couple of issues I want to consult with my colleagues on. One, and this comes up in your preface, of course, not in the text. You often write University of Puerto Rico, Rio Piedras campus. This is a pet peeve of mine. I don't hear universities with their names in English using the word campus in the name of the.
That's the official name. It's the official name in English.
Is it? Okay,
yes.
So do we have to? Because like yes. I said in my comments, I don't mind it's being there on your title page. It seems very appropriate there. But
it's the official name, unfortunately.
But it just in general text, I mean, like other universities say, UCLA is University of California, Los Angeles.
Some, or at.
And some use at. Some don't even use the comma, like University of Colorado says University of Colorado Boulder, University of Colorado Denver. Yeah, no commas even.
I agree with you. Usually when organizations ask my affiliation, I write UPR Rio Piedras. That's what I say. Because
and we get UPRRP, the acronym. Well, that's not an acronym.
It's an abbreviation.
And the abbreviation UPRRP. It's not UPRRPC.
Right.
Right. You know, but just when you're talking about the university in your text, it seems like the word campus could be left out. But all right.
You know what you could do? What you could do is University of Puerto Rico, and then put in parentheses Rio Piedras, and then.
That works too.
That works too. We will have to write the service office.
Oh yeah, sure. I'm sure that'll work. I'm sure that'll work.
Because every time I hear Rio Piedras campus,
no, but there's a saying. There's a saying at the campus. It's always been this way, you know. It's the
okay.
So I know, but you're right though. That doesn't mean you're absolutely right.
Okay, so like I said, the official use, the title page, yes, you better keep it on there. I think in the other references you could find the shorter ways and just quietly not put the campus in there. I'm going to share a document that I prepared. We always have trouble when these defenses. All right, where did it go? Okay. We always have trouble in these defenses getting ourselves on the same page. So I've got some of my comments I've got here. Obviously, we've already talked about this first one. I've never done this in Zoom. I've never shared a screen in Zoom, so.
We see it.
Yeah. Okay. No, this is not what I want to show.
It's not?
No, it isn't. And what I had first was my This is your thesis.
No. We see your comments. What I see is your comments.
Okay, all right. I guess it's because I came out of the meeting, so I'm sorry. As I said, I have never
That's
worked
okay.
in Zoom with a document, so I'm a little okay. So now I think I have. Did it scroll up or down, or do I have to come back?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is one, and I noticed even when you were talking about when you're giving us your presentation, Tim, you've said you actually quoted this part of it, the formed part, Francisco Arriví formed part of an important literary movement in Puerto Rico. And this is the other issue I want my colleagues correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that's how we say things in English. I think that's a calque of the Spanish, formar parte de. We don't use that phrasing in English. We say was, we usually use to be. Francisco was on the thesis committee, not formed part of the thesis committee. Or you can say was a member of, or you could say participated in. He participated in a movement, or he was a major participant in a movement or something, but the formed part of, that just doesn't go in English. Am I wrong?
No, you're right.
Well, look, I'll tell you something. If you,
Okay.
yeah, I think that no, I think you're wrong.
Okay.
I mean, I think you're wrong, and if you research it, you'll see that actually it's an accepted expression.
Oh, okay. I see it in use.
No, but it's also accepted. It's an accepted expression.
To me, I see this, and I tend to be literal. So
send it through the engram. You know, Jane, you're familiar with the
I did. And in the comments that I'm sending to Tim, I give him a link to the Ngram viewer, and formed part of was there because everything is there because somebody says almost every atrocity that exists.
But what you can determine is that you can always look at the sources.
Yes.
You know,
and that's the thing to do. Once you get onto there, then you have to look at the actual hits and yeah, and I did not go beyond that. I just went beyond the usage ones. To me, this doesn't seem logical because this sounds to me like Francisco Arriví took a portion, an important part of it, of this movement and molded it. When that's not at all what it's saying. He didn't form part of this movement. He was a member of it. To me, that participated in or was part of this literary movement says it better anyway. But I think if formed part of is now being used, it's partly influence of Spanish.
You know, you'll find it in a lot of, actually, you'll find it more in UK English than you will in US English.
Okay, now that I can certainly identify with. I can believe that one. That certainly makes sense. Okay, well, I brought it up because I wanted the opinion of my colleagues. I wanted information, so I've learned if it's I'll stop correcting it if it's not not wrong. But okay, so going on to the next one, the title of the play. I just put this in because it's right next to another thing I want to say. First of all, the very unique thing. There's no degree of unique. You can't be a little bit unique and they're very unique. You should just say unique. But then your translation in this part, the title of the play Vejigantes refers to a cultural. All right, this is not a translation. I'm sorry. This is part of your preface. The title of the play Vejigantes refers to a cultural phenomenon that is unique to Puerto Rico, a certain type of mask that is made in Puerto Rico and usually worn during festivals. That makes it sound like the Vejigante is the mask. I don't think that's the case. It's the person who wears the mask. Do you call the mask itself a vejigante, or do you call it? How do you call that in Spanish? Do you call it a máscara de vejigante or what?
Máscara de Vejigante.
Okay, so I think you need to fix that part.
Sí, Vejigante is the character itself.
To make it clear that it's the character who wears the mask, not that the vejigante is the mask.
There's also, that has nothing to do with the play, but there's also characters that are máscaras, that are called máscaras, like the ones in Atillo, but those comes from the Spanish tradition though. But it's similar, where they dress themselves as máscaras. But that has,
sure, I've seen that.
It has nothing to do with so las máscaras de Atillo, it's not just the mask. The mask are the guys all dressed up, you know, the whole being dressed up. So it's parallel to Vejigante, to Máscara de Vejigante and Vejigante.
Okay, thank you. That's what I thought, but I wanted to have that one confirmed. Now the next few, and there's just 3 or 4 of them, I think. These are ones where you missed the mark. I agree with your technique, with what you wrote about of doing approximations of the Puerto Rican sayings to get something. Sometimes you had to invent something, but you came across with something that sounded like English and yet got the feeling across. And I think you did it very well for the most part.
I agree.
There are a few important ones where I don't know if this is a really important one, but this is when Mama Tonya was looking at the record album. She's about to put the record album on, and it says, se restregue los ojos, and you wrote to squints her eyes. In the first place, you would just say she squints. You don't need to say squints her eyes, but it's not squint. She's rubbing her eyes. Restregue is the same word that's used. I hear housewives talking about scrubbing something with a brush, and they use restregar. So she's rubbing her eye, and that's something that we old people, when we can't read something, that's the first thing I do. I take my glasses off, I rub my eyes, put the glasses back on, and oh, now I can read it.
And it's important because it's not that important, but it's not descartable, because it is a play and people are watching it's easier to see the actress rubbing her eyes than squinting. You know, the last guy in the last line, in the last row. It's
good point.
Yeah. Well, also it means something different. If she squints her eyes, she can't see something. If she rubs her eyes, she may be in disbelief.
That's true.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah.
Sure.
Which
so so that one needs to be changed. I'm not going to go scroll because I think you can see enough of it. And here, this is another one. David and Alejo, tell me if I got the right idea here. Se escucha quedamente la bomba titulada Joyalito. Primero un golpear sobre las timbas consentida y malcriada. So here we have, she listens to the bomba song entitled Joyalita. The sound of the barrels is heard, consentida y malcriada, then the voice that complements the percussion. I think the 2 drums are named consentida y malcriada.
Yes.
And that means spoiled and brat. I don't know whether you want to leave those in Spanish or whether you want to translate the names, but either way, you shouldn't have E between them.
Yeah.
You should have and. Consentida and malcriada.
I wouldn't translate them.
No, I wouldn't either.
Want to translate them.
I wouldn't either, but like I said, if you leave them in Spanish, that's fine, but translate E is and. Some people might catch the idea that the barriles are named consentida and malcriada, and they don't really need to know what the meaning of it is. Yes, but I loved the idea.
But it's fun. But it's fun because the drums are supposed to follow the dancer. People think she doesn't follow the drums. The drums follow her. The dancers. Yeah, the drums.
Okay.
The main. Let me get it right. The main drum. The main drum has to follow the dancer. Like in flamenco, the main guitar is the one who follows the dancer. The danzadora or danzador. So name them consentida y malcriada. I mean, it's like the drummer does what he wants, you know.
I love that.
So yeah, I like the play there. But.
And I figured, Tim, that you had probably not caught that about it being the names precisely because you didn't translate the E.
No, I just left that they were the names. I just left the E in there because I honestly liked the way it sounded. I guess, you know, and I'll definitely I can see the issue with it, but I did know that they were the names of the drums. After an exhaustive search trying to find anything online mentioning consentida y malcriada, and I couldn't find anything, I was like, these have to just be names.
Yeah, that's not really.
So I wanted to leave it in there because it's a good cultural tidbit. But I can see maybe the confusion that it may cause in a reader.
Right, and a lot of people are not going to catch it anyway, even though this is written, because this is part of the stage.
I know. I read it in Spanish, and I got it like at the third time they mentioned it. so it's really, yeah.
But the putting in "and" will at least show the reader that it's two different entities, and so maybe they'll get the idea. Okay, then there was this one, que Bill nos crea libre de fantasmas, that you translate as hopefully Bill will free us from these ghosts. No, I think maybe you're confusing with crea, you're confusing crear, create, with creer, believe, because this is creer in the subjunctive. Hopefully believes that we don't have any skeletons in the closet, or that we don't have these ghosts. I suggested skeletons in the closet, but it's actually, it's creer. It's not anything about freeing us. It's believing that we don't have the ghosts.
Sí.
Is what we're hoping.
Sí.
So that one, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about you thinking it was crear as opposed to creer.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
No.
But that's a very easy, that's a mistake I made many times when I was learning Spanish. So,
sí.
Yeah. So okay, just a couple more. I have to keep scrolling down, and I keep forgetting how to do that.
You have to scroll in the actual document.
Yes, and okay, got it. Okay, here, and this was the one I really felt this is very important because it's your interpretation. I understand exactly where it came from.
De querida,
yeah, y de querida con mi abuelo. Think of Mama Toña, remember her life as a servant. But see, Clarita is talking about how terrible her life was. So beloved grandmother doesn't fit. And I always tell my students, if it doesn't make sense, if your translation doesn't make sense, go back and check the source text. You may be missing something. That querida de mi abuelo is that Toña was a mistress.
Sí.
He never married her. He never respected her enough to marry her.
And not only the lover, it's the main mistress, because you have the querida, and then there are the cortejas, which are the secondary lovers. I mean, the querida is the woman he actually loves, but he can't marry her because of social barriers.
Right. So I'm not quite sure how I would suggest to translate this. Maybe, I don't know. That's a whole other problem, but you need to understand what it means.
I actually missed that one, but querida is the mistress. Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Okay.
Also very important to the play, and
sí, claro.
What it's trying to say about Mama Toña's life and what her lived experiences were.
And furthermore, this happened all the time in the Puerto Rican rural society. He doesn't have to be of Spanish descent, but a man of the middle class, maybe, or bourgeois, would have an official wife and many mistresses, and they'll actually live nearby. I mean, he will have the main house with the wife, and then 2 houses down was the mistress with her children, and then 2 houses, and the other mistress will live, and that's why many barrios are called like Los Rodriguez. Well, because that's Mr. Rodriguez had a whole house in the barrio. You know, that happens a lot. It happened a lot during
I remember very early in the early 70s when I was newly arrived in Puerto Rico. a woman I was having a long, pleasant conversation with. Our kids were playing with each other, and she, in the middle of her telling something about her husband, she suddenly broke off and says, "You know, my husband's married, right?" And it threw me for a loop. So she,
Yeah,
oh yeah. So he went to see his wife the other day, and oh, okay, but
you know,
he was, to her, he was his husband, or her husband. So
I'm the proud grandson of a querida. That's why I know all this. I mean, my grandmother on my mother's side, I will always wonder why don't we go to Yabucoa? Because you know, when your families from not from San Juan, you go to the pueblo, you know, on the
right.
weekends. And how come we don't go to Yabucoa? How do we, you know, how come she doesn't visit relatives down there? Of course, when I grew up, I realized that my grandma was the querida, and she was, I mean, she was accepted but not allowed in official family reunions. And that's what happened. And that's why she would not go to Yabucoa during Christmas or other festivities. And that's why it's really, I don't, it's really forgotten now, you know, but it did happen a lot in those days. Yeah.
So a lesson about this one, Tim, is if you see something in your translation that doesn't make sense, doesn't fit with the story, or doesn't fit with the point the author's making, go back and check the source text and see, because that's what made me notice it. Thinking, wait a minute, beloved grandmother, that doesn't fit with saying how it's a life on the margins, a life of humiliation. So, okay. All right. Now this next one, this is when Marta was talking to Clarita and is telling her, before marrying your father, I was already thinking of you. De verdad lo enamoré por ti. That's not I fell in love with you. That's I made him fall in love with me for your sake. I was out hunting for a husband who's whiter than me so that I could have a whiter child. So
it's horribly called mejorar la raza, which is a horrible phrase. It's a horrible phrase. Yeah.
Raise the blood is something I used to read.
That makes my blood boil.
Yeah, right. It's
I know. It's well.
Yeah.
I guess we live in better days somehow. Yeah.
I think David may be the only one who knew my husband, but my husband was pretty dark. I love the fact that my kids are darker than I am. So,
yeah.
Okay. So anyhow, so that one needs to be corrected. Now this last one, I think this is the last one. This is about the stage directions. The stage directions drove me nuts, and it's not your fault.
Arriví was famous. Many Puerto Rican playwrights are famous because of their extensive directions. I mean, they just put whole dissertations into their.
If I were an artist, I don't know. On the one hand, I think it's nice, and these directions help me picture when I'm reading the play. They really do help me visualize. But if I were an actor or a director, I would say, hey, wait a minute, what am I here for?
Yeah.
Do I have any talents? Do I have anything to contribute? Anyway, okay, enough of that. But he chose to put these directions. And other than doing a summary of the directions on the side and rewriting it completely, there's nothing you could do other than what you've done. But if you're going to deal with this, I think you need to be to figure out how you're going to format it, because you're very inconsistent with which ones have periods after them and which ones don't, which ones are capitalized and which ones aren't. And I think you need to have a policy and then always do it. Like, for instance, that if it's a full sentence, you put a period. If it's not, you don't, or whatever. But I found this paragraph really annoying, because right in the middle of a sentence, and this is a speech, this is not separate stage directions. This is in the middle of Mama Tonia's words. It keeps stopping and saying where it is pointing. You did put it in italics, which helps that you have all of those. I would even put it in a different font or smaller or something. But I certainly, these that interrupt in the middle of a sentence, I wouldn't capitalize it. I would keep that lowercase because I found those capital letters very distracting in the middle of a speech. But
Agreed.
either way, it needs to be consistent, and the way you have it now, it's not. Sometimes you have, like I said, periods, and sometimes you don't, and
Can I
you can
just
clean that up.
continue?
Yeah, by all means.
The only thing, my general rule for it was no periods for actor-specific stage directions was the philosophy I kind of took. The only
Okay.
time I tried to put periods was for, and I don't even know what the name would be, like the setting directions. So
Longer descriptive stage directions, like the introductory ones, you know, to each.
Yeah, so those longer descriptive ones that more set the scenes, I used periods in those, but I tried to be consistent with not using any periods for any stage directions associated with specific characters,
Okay.
or stage directions for the actors themselves.
It would be nice then if you would.
Mistakes there. I tried to read through and stick to that
Okay.
philosophy when I was doing it, but that was in general my philosophy when doing the stage directions.
Then this is something that I didn't put in the written notes I'm going to send you, so you might want to take a note. But could you put that in the preface, please?
Okay. Yeah, I think
because your preface is something that another student, perhaps another student who's translating a play, might want to read for some guidance on the same problems that they get into. So the preface is the part that other people are going to be reading in the future, and I think that would be helpful. I do think these should be lowercase.
Yeah, I'm in agreement on that.
I didn't mind the one at the beginning, Mama Tonya, colon, parentheses, capital P pointing to the portrait on the left. I didn't mind there, but it really seemed out of place. And
even there, it doesn't have to be uppercase, I don't think.
Yeah,
okay, sorry.
So that is, let me just look and see if the notes that I took. No, that covers everything that I took notes on while Alejo was talking, so.
Okay.
But good job. This was fun. I'm glad I was on this committee.
See, unfortunately, I did not do what this beautiful thing Jane did right here, so organized.
And let me stop.
But actually, I'll take it as a hint to do it on future defenses. So maybe a table like that will.
Well, I thought it might be helpful to be able to see the Spanish, the source text, and the English side by side.
Mira, there are several things that I saw. Mama Toña tends to call Marta hija, hija. And I respect the decision that you chose to eliminate that, but it's important because it's a term of endearment.
Right.
And Mama Toña speaks more like a Spaniard. I mean, so the hija, hola, hija, that's very Spaniard from the Spanish, you know. And if you take it away, it hurts the character because Mama Toña does seem to openly loves her daughter, and she's telling her, that hija is like dearie, like dear. I would just say it's like saying dear, honey, sweetie.
Can I say something here? Can I interrupt, please? I also commented on that, and I just had an epiphany. No, not that big, but it just had an idea. I suggested that you write honey or sweetie, but now I think, how about corazón?
In Spanish, you mean?
Yeah, leave it in Spanish and put mi corazón.
That would work, pero
my daughter is a bilingual
daughter sounds like
teacher,
Tarzan and Jane. I mean, you know.
What?
Daughter sounds like Tarzan and Jane. You know, hi, daughter.
All right. My little girl is a bilingual kindergarten teacher, And she even when she's speaking English, the part of the day that she's teaching in English, she addresses her children, her students as corazón.
Okay, can I just clarify something here? Sorry, Jane, since you mentioned this and it sort of came out of nowhere, maybe, are you saying that if corazón is in the source text that you should leave it? Or are you saying that you should replace hija with corazón?
Eso.
The latter.
Oh,
Okay.
Just do hija.
Sí, sweet or sweetie, dear, something.
No, but hija is fine.
Pero es que hija means dear. Eso es lo que, it doesn't mean daughter. It means it's a term of endearment. The Spanish do it all the time. But
okay, then you could have some accumulation here and you could say, hija, sweetie.
But es que she's trying to, okay, Arriví's trying to make us see that the grandma still loves her daughter despite her being such a jerk. You know, and being so mean to her and disrespectful, she's still saying hija, dear, you know, and that's important for Mama Toña's character.
We shouldn't use sweetie because that's what Clarita and Bill use. So,
okay.
Sí, pero some term of endearment,
darling.
Se entienda. Exacto. Entonces, I don't know where you translate maceta. I have it on page 8 of your translation, but your big husband, so tu esposo maceta, he's not big or large, he's greedy. Maceta in Spanish means greedy. Avaro, greedy. Eres un maceta. Caminas con los codos. You know? Those are Puerto Rican words for greedy, and it's also a trope for how Puerto Ricans see the Spanish. The Spanish they're greedy.
And stingy as well. Don't want to spend money.
That's what I wanted to ask. Does greedy imply not wanting to spend money despite having money?
No.
No.
Entonces no es greedy, es stingy.
Stingy. That's the codo.
Guys. Then stingy is the word, not greedy. Stingy is the correct word. Entonces, I'll keep going. When they say los de Loíza tenemos brujería, los de Loíza tenemos fama. And you wrote, those born in Loíza have that gift. No, they're famous for them. It's not that they have the gift of witchcraft, it's that they're famous for practicing witchcraft, which is kind of like slightly not the same thing, you know? Not all Black people from Loíza are santeros, you know. Actually, most of them are Christian, actually. So yeah, that's important to know. So it's more like a fame, a rumor, more than reality. I mean, the festivities in Loíza are Catholic festivities, actually. They're not African descent.
Syncretic.
Sí, pero es un santo católico que es Santiago.
Yeah, but
it's a Catholic festivity which allows for, it's the authorities allowing people to practice their culture so they won't rebel.
It's a celebration based on a Catholic festivity.
But the strategy was to
things added to it
to allow those characters to emerge so that people won't rebel against the Spanish. Because
that's kind of the explanation for syncretism in general. I mean, it's one explanation.
And because Loíza, and that's another mistake you have, when they say cimarrón, it's not wild. Cimarrón here means Loíza was founded by maroon slave
Maroons,
people,
maroons.
Originally. And especially the part when you cross the puente for Tupiñones all the way to the river, that's the true Loíza. And then what they did is on the other side of the river they founded the village. You know, that's why there's a difference between Loíza and Loíza Aldea, because the Aldea is not where the Maroons were, and Loíza is where the municipality was founded, and it's a river between them. Actually, the river just splits the two. So,
and Cimarron it's actually in English dictionaries as fugitive slave.
Pues mira, there you go.
I looked it up in
Uh,
Merriam-Webster, and it's there pronounced Cimarron, but it's
Sí, sí, pero.
it's
but
fugitive
maroon
slave.
is used more often than cimarron
Mhm.
in
Sí.
English. Maroon.
Entonces,
Yes.
la tiendita del mangle compared to the dance hall in Condado, it's not a corner store. It's actually a little shack in the mangrove, literally. You know, Loíza had had not many buildings in that time. So she's referring to the little shack in the mangrove where the people buy stuff. It's not a corner store. It's definitely not a corner store. It's a very poor shack that sells goods. You know, we call it no, I won't call it colmado either. It's even worse than a colmado. You know, it's a shack. Entonces esta sí que you really have to. An asilo is a nursing home. It's not an asylum.
Asylum.
It's a nursing home. That's Puerto Rican Spanish. I know. An asilo, technically, it's an asylum, like in Batman. See, but in Puerto Rican Spanish, it's a nursing home. It's an euphemism for a nursing home. Yeah. So she, of course, she's bluffing, but she's nobody wants to enroll in a nursing home on their own. You know, she's just bluffing. So yeah. What else? What else? There's a minor things. I highlighted all that I saw that you need to, so you could see it, you know, clearly when I hand this over to you. You know what? I think those are the main things that I really saw that you need to work on, because I don't want to keep insisting on such a good work. You know, I know we always, it's always unfair to you guys because always we point out things that you have to improve, but it just doesn't compare to the good work that you did here. You know, so I don't want you to feel that we're cherry picking or something like that. You know,
I second that.
Sí, tú sabes, it's a very difficult text to handle. It's a very delicate text to handle, and you did a wonderful job in journals, and I'm really impressed with what you did. So I'm gonna keep it there. The rest of the things I highlighted them, just look them over, and some of them are suggestions. Some of them, like asilo, are you have to correct that. So that's it for me. I don't know if Jane would like to add something to the discussion.
I wanted to add something because I wanted to. This was the discussion that we didn't really have, but I had with Timothy, and the subject of of racial ethnic designations, during the 1950s. The tendency would not be to use the term black as
I agree.
much as colored.
I agree.
We said Negro.
Or Negro, but and the thing was that depending on the period, one was Negro was considered to be very polite.
Yes.
Especially in the South. Especially in the South.
Yes.
And so, the thing was that
I was in the North.
Colored
we
was
taught,
also used.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Colored was also used more colloquially.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, I mean, I remember hearing it, and I remember the absurdity of it in my ears, and so. I mean, and it's still a term that has been used, many times, also in a play, Colored Girls, it's been used many, many times. I think, I'm not sure, and I think Timothy isn't sure, Gesundheit. I think Timothy isn't sure. What do you think would be appropriate here? Just to leave it as black, or to maybe use colored, or maybe use Negro, or I don't know.
I wouldn't use Negro because I have seen the reaction of my students when I tell them I was taught as a teenager, as a young girl and as a teenager, that Negro was in Northern Illinois, that Negro was the respectful person, the only respectful way to refer to a person's race if they were Negroes. And now that's so shocking to my students that I even say the word, that
No.
obviously it's changed.
Well, yeah, but look, I mean, you know, there's still organizations that bear that name, you know.
Sí,
So
claro. NAACP, for example. Yeah.
exactly. So no.
Oh, that's colored people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's no, but there's
UNC,
National-
United Negro College Fund, for example.
Mhm,
yes,
right,
yes,
that's
yes,
one.
yes,
Mhm.
yes.
And
So
baseball fans have finally learned to speak with great respect of the Negro Leagues
yes,
back
yes.
before they were allowed to play in Major League Baseball.
But okay, getting back to the terms, do you think that a change should be made, or should we just leave it as black? I mean, black was also a descriptor that was used, you know, at the time, but maybe not as much.
I see, but okay, the intention of this text is to be staged somehow in the future.
Yeah.
I don't know, and you know, using Negro as a spectator, as an audience, you'll have to think how the audience will react,
Mhm.
even though it's dated. You could write all the trigger warnings you want. People are still gonna react as people read anymore anyway, so they're not gonna read the trigger warning. So I will stay with black.
Okay.
It serves its purpose. Ironically, in Spanish, now the term that's getting traction is de color, which seems odd to me.
Well, people of color. I mean,
People of
Sí,
color
sí,
is used quite a bit,
sí, pero
because people of color is used now in a more inclusive way.
claro, pero
yeah, well,
It
expansive.
includes.
se usaba en Puerto
Expansive,
Rico.
yeah.
I'm
was
sorry, I said it
used-
backwards.
It was used in
Exactly.
Spanish, but it was also kind of offensive then. Saying de color is like, you know, it was frowned upon, and now it's like it's the term that's gaining traction now.
But that's the
It's
difference
weird.
between
It's weird to
saying,
me. You know, as a
it's the
Spanish
difference
speaker.
between saying colored people and people of color.
Exacto. But the thing is, the translation, you know, there's no, you know, Colorado means another thing in Spanish. So in Spanish, both would be de color. So, and that's the problem. You see, in English, it changed from color to de color of color. I'm sorry.
Right, but there's
Spanish,
not a
both of
change
them-
in Spanish, right?
In Spanish, both of them are the same term. And to me, I understand it, but it's still shocking in a way, you know. And I know it's the correct translation of color. But in my direction, that we should translate into Spanish. It's kind of I'm making my peace with it. You know,
What I was trying to say before was I don't remember as a child when we said colored people, I don't think we used that to cover like Asians. But now people of color
No.
includes-
That's not people of color. No, colored people was black. That was black.
Sí,
Exactly.
Although in South Africa, it meant something completely different. A colored person in South Africa is actually mixed race.
Okay, but that's, yeah, I think I knew that.
But
Yeah.
so, but I think it really depends on whether you want this to be historically accurate, accurate for the times, reflective for the times, or whether you want this to be something that maybe can be presented where there won't be any wild reactions against it because of the language that's used. But, I mean, there are a lot of, historical pieces that, not just plays, but, historical novels where you
Mark
have
Twain.
to use.
How Mark Twain called Jim, the character of Jim, you know.
Well, no, but that's a difference. Yeah, I know,
Well,
but I'm not. I don't. I don't think any of us would be comfortable going down that path.
But that's what I mean. It's dated. It's 19th century. It's what he used. We're crazy to use that today. That's what I
Yes.
mean.
Yeah. But all right, maybe we'll just leave it at that. I just have one suggestion, Tim, and to reflect Bill being a Southerner, I would suggest that you look through cases where he uses you plural, and change it to y'all. Because nobody in Alabama says you plural. They will always say, they will, to this day, they will always say y'all.
Even, and that goes beyond class. It's a question that goes beyond class, David. Even an educated person would say y'all.
Well, yes, absolutely.
It's a question. I'm curious. That's all.
No, look, I mean, I have friends in Alabama right now. I can call them up. Do you want me to call them?
Okay, no, it's a question because sometimes these terms are
who are also academics. Who are
Okay.
also academics.
Okay.
And it's for plural. It's, I mean, okay, if you're in an English class, you know, a professor may not say y'all, but you plural is y'all.
Yes.
Okay. And you know,
so I would suggest inserting it at least a few times.
Okay, yeah, it'll be good. And just to sum up, bill it's another metaphor, like the dollar bill. You know, it's
exactly.
Bill because it
You got it.
Bill.
Yeah, the money in the head.
Yep, Bill. Yep.
Oh, somebody explain to me what the significance of thinking with this. Their thoughts are here. Their thoughts are here. That's new to me, and I don't understand
the
it.
only explanation I have is that Arriví had to know about Santeria somehow. For the Santeros, the conscious is not here. It's in the back of your head, in the ori. It's called the ori.
Oh, okay. It's because, all right.
And this is, ori literally means head in
So
Yoruba.
it's lower back of the head.
It's the point where the
Not
neck.
up here.
It's the point where the neck and the spine merge.
Okay.
And the Yoruba believe that that's where you gain consciousness, right there. So when you think with your back of your head, it's actually more, you're being more wise. And when you think with your front of your head, you're being amoral or thinking, we're not thinking, succumbing to your impulses in a way. So it's, and that's what he's doing. It's the only explanation I could think of. You know, the text is actually dated, so I don't know if in those days there was a metaphor, but that's what I could think of.
Okay, so it's not something that I should have known.
No.
Not anything that obvious.
Arriví here is he's barely scratching the surface in some tropes that are massive here in the play. You know, so yeah.
You were very brave, Tim.
No, I'm gonna.
Good for you.
I'm gonna close on that because there's the issue today whether a person like Tim could translate a text like this because it handles race. You know, it's not the same case because Arriví would not be considered black. You know, even though Puerto Ricans are not a race. You know, right? But he wasn't white either. You know, Arriví. So. But I'm thinking of controversies like Amanda Gorman. You know what happened to her translation in Spain.
Yes. However, you know, unfortunately or fortunately, wokeism no longer exists. It's been bombed in. You know, wokeism is dead in the water. For better, for worse.
But I've seen backlash, for example, when you translate black authors into English, and I've been to the States. I have to always say, listen, I am the translator of this word because the author chose me. I mean, literally. I mean, the author called me. You want to translate my book? And I said yes. So, I mean,
but I don't think that what I'm trying to say. And I think you're absolutely justified, Alejo. I think you're absolutely justified. However, I don't think that's happening anymore.
Okay, thank God. I mean,
no, not thank God.
No, that happened to me in 2023. I mean,
no, we're in a different world now.
Okay, 23 is 2 years ago. So I don't know.
I know, but you know it's happened since then.
Yeah, I know, but it does. You know, Of course, there could be many Black Americans that could translate this. Well, of course, but my point is, and translation is a linguistic relationship in the first place, you know, and that it doesn't bar anyone. If you can connect with your linguistic abilities to a text and translate it well, that also happens beyond race. And
Yes.
If you're good at it, you should be
Exacto.
allowed to do it. If you're not good at it, you shouldn't be, regardless of.
I could understand if a publishing house has a policy on it. That's their problem, and I would respect that. You know, see, I don't agree with it, of course, but I would respect.
No, I'm not saying whether I agree with it or not. However, I just want to point out one thing. This is not only about Black identity, it's about all identities. It's about all identities. And so, I mean, we have the full range here. The full range, including, as you pointed out, indigenous. So all identities are here. As a human being, Timothy represents an identity. He's allowed to participate in a project where actually his identity is included as well. I think.
I agree.
Although if Timothy is stuck with having Bill to represent him, we're
Tim,
not
you get the
all
bill.
like Bill.
You get the bill, Tim. No,
all right. I think I'm sorry, Alejo. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, translation being a linguistic relationship, of course, it has elements of representation and all that. But as you said, you know, it has to be inclusive, and inclusive means everyone. And if you as a translator can establish that with chemistry with the text, that goes beyond that. That is linguistic, and that's what translation is in the first place. And everything else it's an addition to it. So I believe you did a very good job, and actually maybe propose this for publication somehow. If you know, it will be great, because this is a very important play, and this will be the time actually to see it staged. I would love to see this staged in the States somehow.
At the Kennedy Center.
Sí. Oh my God. Yeah. So yeah, that's all.
With paper towels.
Sí. Thank you, Tim. You did a very good job. That's all.
Thank you.
Okay. Barbara should be there somewhere. Barbara? Okay, we're now streaming live. Tim, we've come to a conclusion, and there are certain things, you know, you'll receive some revisions and comments from Jane and Alejo, hopefully soon. But we want to congratulate you on what Alejo terms a very bold endeavor. We cannot think of anything else but to give you a sobresaliente.
Yes.
So we wish to congratulate.
Indeed.
Congratulations.
And Tim, now I would exhort you to come to the graduation so you can listen to the university's anthem, because it's part of the graduation ceremony.
You should hear it.
Once everybody, the whole auditorium stands up and sings the anthem. It's one of the parts of the ceremony. So I exhort you to come and be part of it.
So you better learn the anthem so you can stand up and sing.
All right. Well, anyway, Tim, it's been a pleasure working with you, and you know, congratulations. I think I had like one or two other observations that I'll probably send along to. But I think you should really look at Jane and Alejo's comments and revisions. And if you have any questions, you know, please let me know. And, you know, if you could send it over to me before you send it in, you know, just so I could have one last look at it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, congratulations.
Thank you for inviting me to be on this committee. I would have hated to have missed this one.
Thank you for agreeing.
So, oh, anytime.
Don't go. We have a